All right, I want to welcome to the show Michael Maitland. Michael is a 2 award winner. If you are a member of the ClickFunnels community, you know what that means. It's awesome. He is the CEO of TEFL Heaven, teaching English as a foreign language in 14 countries. He is a father of 5 children and married for almost 14 years. And I'm super excited to have Michael on the show to talk about his vision for when he started his family and for starting his business. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Judy. Glad to be here.
I'm super excited to have you. And tell us a little bit more about your business. What was the inspiration that started your business?
Well, that's a long story, but I guess the inspiration to start my business was really chasing a girl halfway across the world, a girl that I fancied, but she didn't really fancy me much. In fact, I tried to date her for about a year and got rejected. I remember one time she agreed to go on a date with me, and I'd ask her open questions, she'd answer with closed answers. So I just was getting nothing from that. And then she decided to go to Thailand to teach English for the summer of university. And so I thought, hey, I've always wanted to teach English in Thailand. Can I come? And she kind of gave like an awkward sort of reaction, but she was kind of a polite girl. So she was like, well, I can't really get you a job, because she was going to be teaching English, you see, and she'd already had her job. And I said, don't worry, I'll get my own job. I just need some help getting through the airport, because I've never flown internationally as an adult before, which was true. So a few people around us thought that I was a bit of a stalker. And I had to deal with that kind of reaction, but I felt really inspired to do it. And so about a week later, I called her up when I was in Scotland. I went to Scotland for a week because I knew I wasn't going to be in the UK for the summer. So I spent a week with my mum. And then in Scotland, I went to the travel agent and I found out the flights, and I called her up and I said, hey, are you on this flight? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, is it all right if I book it right now, because I'm in the travel agent? She's like, but I can't get you a job. I was like, I'll just find my own job. She's like, okay. So booked the flight. He was going with another guy, but they weren't together. So me to come along as well, on the flight at least, wasn't too weird. I knew the guy as well. And so I did what I said I would do. When we arrived in Bangkok, she went to the north of Bangkok, I went to the south of Bangkok. I'd already secured a job, and I taught English. So after teaching English for a bit, the girl and the guy weren't really getting on very much. So they sort of called me and said, hey, do you want to hang out with us? Because they weren't getting on. I mean, they were getting on okay, but I think like it was a bit of cabin fever.
Yeah.
So anyway, trying
Get
to
some
make this
new blood in the mix.
New blood. New blood. There is a point to this story. And so they invited me to the islands. I spent 10 days on the islands with them, and then this girl kind of let her hair down a bit, and we went back to the UK and we sort of dated a little bit more. I called it dating, she called it hanging out. And we got a McDonald's McFlurry one night, double deluxe dairy milk, and I drugged her with that, and that's when I kissed her in the back of my car in a dark alleyway in Bradford near Leeds. And then a couple of months later, we got engaged, and then about 7 months later, we got married, and we went straight back to Thailand, taught English again. But this time when we came back, I said to my old boss, hey, I'll do some recruitment for you, just pay me some money. And he said, all right. And so I started doing a little bit of recruitment, and it snowballed into this business, which now has hit over $1 million. Actually, we generated almost $5 million altogether over the time that it's been around. It's been around for 10 years. And so I got the 2 Club Award in 2019. And we've changed the lives of like thousands of people who have went and like taught English abroad in 14 different countries, Latin America, Europe, Asia.
Wow.
And And now I'm starting to teach and be a marketing and sales coach. I'm teaching other business owners how to build a business and how to achieve their own 2 Club award. So
Wow.
that's a bit of a long
No,
story,
that's
but
awesome.
in the end, I got the girl, and it was all worth it.
I want to go back to something in your story, and you mentioned how, you know, before you got married, your wife was kind of like not interested at first, and then you mentioned that when you were in Thailand near the end of your time there, she let her hair down, and in you have a YouTube video where you tell this story. It's awesome. And you actually say
Yeah.
something in that video, and you say you were less needy. And I thought that that
Yeah.
was really fascinating, because I think that our couples and marriage relationships, having a foundation of mutual respect, having a foundation where, you know, you know, I think that when one person is more needy than the other, then the other person has more power in a way, right? Like it could morph into maybe an imbalanced situation. So how did that, tell us in your own words, like how did that impact your relationship with her to be to more balanced and less needy?
Do you know, I think like neediness is something that so many people struggle with, and I struggle with it a lot. There's a book called Overcome Neediness and Get the Love You Want by Jack Ito. I'm reading that right now, actually, because you can spiral into, you can, neediness is not a constant thing. Sometimes you can feel more needy, be more needy. Other times you can be chilled, but it's not an attractive trait. And so the reason why I was not being attractive before is because I was so needy. Like I was looking for a wife, and people could probably feel that from me. But the girls that I didn't really care too much about, I could flirt with and not be needy, and they'd be attracted to me. But when it came to the girls that I actually liked, like my wife or my future wife back then, Emily, I just was just the behavior, the attitude of, hey, can I help you? Can I serve you? Like all that crap. And when I changed my attitude and I was a bit more fun to be around, and I didn't care what she thought. Like that was the big change. I actually said to myself, the moment it changed is when I said to myself that I'm freaking ace, and if she can't see that, that's her problem. And then she started to see that I was freaking ace. But I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet saying I'm freaking ace, but it was more, I'm not really freaking ace, but I was just confident. It was all about being
Yeah,
confident, all about having confidence and just having fun and not caring whether like I got the girl or not. And then in the end, I got the girl because I didn't care. So it's a real weird situation where you need to not care. And I learned that from a guy called David D'Angelo. You may or you may not know that name, but it's a date doctor guy. I started getting emails, and he was teaching all this stuff, and I was reading up on it, and I was practicing it, and it really changed me. And I gave the same name of the guy to a friend of mine, and he also got married soon afterwards, and he came back and said, thanks so much for giving me that guy's name, because it really helped me be more
that's
confident.
awesome.
So neediness is not attractive, and also is it's an entitled in a marriage. It's like an entitlement.
Mm.
It's like you. I expect you to be this way, and if you're not, then you're wrong. And there is a power struggle as well, and it's never good. There are ways to get the same thing without the same attitude, though.
Mm.
So
So
I
that's,
don't know how.
no, I love that, because like, well, I mean, you talk about in that video on YouTube that you had this vision before you even met your wife, that you wanted to get married, that you wanted to have 6 kids, and you know, having a family was like your dream, right? And so as you learn to let go of being needy and entitled, how is that playing into that vision now of your family life?
Um, wow, that's a that is a you caught me off guard with that question. Um, so it's still there sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like it's still there. You have to remind yourself about what you want, and that sometimes your partner's not on the same level. Not that you're on a higher level, but just that you're not in harmony. So there's some things that I'm not in harmony with her with, and some things that she's not in harmony with me with. And when we try to pull each other to the other person's point of view, it never works. Like or push or pull, whatever. But you can entice. There's ways to entice, and there's ways to lovingly explain. But you also have to be ready to detach yourself from the outcome and to be patient. So the principles of patience and faith that things might change, but if not, then that's okay. But also knowing the critical things, knowing to fight for the critical things. So pick your battles. A wise man taught me one day to say, sorry, he taught me one day to pick my battles. So I was having this problem in a certain relationship, and I was being very naggy, and he said, you need to pick your battles. Just choose the ones that are most important.
I love that. That's so beautiful and pertinent to a family culture, and how to be intentional with your family culture. That, you know, it's important to have a vision, it's important to have goals, and to aspire as a family to, you know, what you envision to be as a family. You know, you don't want to have your children grow up someday, move out of your house and never speak to you again, right? Like you want to maintain relationships, and you want to be able to, you know, maintain your marriage relationships into, you know, the end of your life, right? That's ideally all the way through the end. And so having that vision is important, but I love what you're saying is being able to balance that with, you know, saying, okay, let's find a way to meet in the middle, or find a way that sometimes I give and sometimes you give. It's a balancing act in a relationship, in a marriage, where, you know, you present those ideas, but how do you balance that with the realization and truth and reality that every person in your family is an individual with their own values and their own ideas. So that's one of the things that, as a family culture, you know, to talk about family culture, trying to find that balance between your individual and collective, you know, to navigate your family culture individually and collectively is really powerful.
I mean, it's easy to get sloppy. Like I guess if you're not aware, then you can easily get sloppy with your kids. You can get sloppy with your marriage, and actually, I think like that might be one of the main causes of big problems in marriage and in families. But you don't see it until way further down the line, where it's a lot harder to change, because you've got into these bad habits of sloppiness. You've let the kids do what they want. You've not really structured your family life. You've not really visualized what you want your family to be like, and you're left with whatever naturally happens. And maybe there's some things that you feel passionate about that you do get done, but there's other things that you want done, but you don't really know how to do it, or you've not really put the time in to get it done. So, and that happens in every family as well, because I'm definitely saying that happens in my family, where we have some issues with the kids, where we're trying to figure out how do we help them understand certain things. And these same things are going on and on and on, and still haven't figured it out yet. But there's other things where we're making some progress, and so it's just keeping yourself aware of it, and not just giving in and saying to yourself it doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
it does matter. Like it does matter.
Yeah. You want to be able to maintain those things and not just get sloppy. And then someday you're going, well, I'm tired of this. You know, it's scary,
Yeah.
but that's the reality. That's why families are falling apart and marriages are failing.
Well, I mean, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
How old am I, or how old are my
Yeah,
kids?
you.
I'm 38. Hmm.
I'm 38 as well. Awesome. So at our ages, and we don't need to mention anyone, but at our ages, at this age, you see some families, some friends break up. Like
Yeah.
you see some families break up, and there's no judgment on why that happens, but it does make you more introspectful and think,
Yeah.
okay, that could be me. Like I need to make sure that isn't me, because the reality is that it's not always flowers and rainbows. And sometimes we can think that all is well when actually it's not, or you need to pay more attention and pay more attention to the signs of things breaking down, or even just small little cracks. And at this age, I have seen and witnessed a few families break up, and I always think, oh, it always comes unexpectedly as well. You just never know.
Yeah, it's always unexpected. I mean, so many of the issues we deal with are so private, that was one of the reasons I started this show. Was my husband and I, we weren't exactly struggling with our relationship, but it was still like we didn't have a clear vision of the future, and then I'd seen so many families growing up that I thought were solid. You think that they're strong, and then they divorce and it's over. And so I was like, what, how does that happen? That was one of the things I wanted to really investigate, how to avoid those things. And it's exactly what you're saying. There are principles and there are strategies for strengthening your family so you can get ahead of those issues. And they come from, like you said, being aware, being present, being mindful, having a growth mindset and an open mind are all really important principles for strengthening your family and having that intentionality so that, you're not just coasting. I like to describe family culture as it's navigating a road trip, and if you just put your car in cruise control, you're gonna, who knows what's gonna happen, right? Or if you flip a coin at every intersection, which direction we're gonna go in, you don't know where you're gonna end up. And so all these principles are
going to be too, sorry.
Go ahead.
Or you're going to be too far down one lane to
Yeah.
be able to reverse back in time. I think that's one thing that I'm noticing a bit with my kids right now who have a bit of a tech addiction. And how can I help them like overcome that? But it's quite far in now, so it's a lot harder now to change than it would have been like about even just 6 months ago, actually. And I'm kicking myself for like just letting them, like trusting them and being like, yeah, fine, you guys are sensible, but they're not. They're kids.
Yeah, right.
So, and the hard thing about that is the attitude towards me, the relationship towards me, and my relationship towards them, because I'm trying to put the brakes on so hard and so passionately that it comes across as me being mean.
Mm-hmm.
And even my daughter's saying like, you're always mean to me now. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's helping me be more aware. So I've started doing it a bit differently, and a lot differently than the first time. First time I actually threw the monitor. I can't believe I did that. I threw the monitor across the room, and it smashed on the ground. And she was totally shocked. I'd never done anything like that before. I didn't even know I was going to do that. And then afterwards, I felt bad. And then I realized that like it's the guilt. Like it was my guilt that made me do that, not the fact that she didn't listen to me like 10 times, because like she was so rude that day. I told her not to go on it, and she's like sneaking on it all. And the last time she sneaked on it, I just went crazy and just chucked the monitor and smashed it.
Right.
But that was a good thing in a way, because it helped me realize that there's definitely a problem.
Right. We learn from those experiences.
Both how I was acting towards it, and also with her, like going on it all the time. So.
Yeah, that's something that I observed in myself. And before I started doing this research, I was like, I keep fluctuating between permissive parenting and authoritarian parenting. Like, I was like, oh, do whatever you want. And then, no, don't do anything. And then I'd feel guilty. No, okay, do whatever you want. So it's like, it's an interesting dilemma that we face as parents, like without having some kind of foundation of what you want to accomplish or the values you have, then you're going to be like, it is feel like flipping a coin almost, like, okay, how do I respond to this? Let's flip a coin. I'm going to get angry or no, or I'm going to just let them do it, and it's hard to navigate that unless you have like a vision of what you want to do. And so I applaud you though, that you have the awareness, you're getting to that realization, like, okay, we've got to lay down some groundwork and some rules.
Well, yeah, that's a real serious thing right now. Like I'm even like looking at, I listened to a podcast about tech addiction, and I realized that I'm a bit addicted to tech as well. And I was like, oh my word, like, but it's interesting because, you don't understand your parents when you're growing up. And I was just reminded of a time where my dad, we didn't have like computers in those days. I'm not that old, but my sister was listening to music on the ghetto blaster in the kitchen really, really loudly, and he came in with a pair of scissors and cut the electricity cord.
Oh, wow.
And I was just thinking, oh, I'm turning into my dad.
Yep.
So
Yep. That's another. Okay. I'm sorry. I keep saying that. But so I teach these principles of family culture. And it's like when people, I hear things that trigger the thoughts, the things that you were modeled when you were kids, those things come out when we're adults and as parents. And so it's like, that's another issue, another principle of family culture is understanding your family history and like the relationships that you had with your parents and how the behaviors that they modeled or the activities and the traditions that you had, and the beliefs that they had. Sometimes our beliefs come through in our values and we don't realize that those things were what's the word, they were socialized or groomed into it. That's not the word I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like they were things
yeah,
that you become accustomed to just because
yeah.
that's what was normal for you, and maybe it wasn't normal for your parents to cut cords or things like that. You know what I mean? Like, but you saw it
No, I get what
happen,
you're saying.
you know?
My dad was an angry man when he was younger, for sure. I got chased around, but he was a good guy as well. But it all changed when I was a teenager. It changed into like a soft, gentle guy. But when I was a kid, man, I'd get shouted at. But I would push the boundaries as well. I would,
Mm,
and it came to a point where like it didn't matter if he shouted or not. I just did what I wanted. So that was pretty bad. But yeah,
oh
I'd hate
well.
to be my own. Saying that to my wife, I was like, I'd hate to have a son like me. Like I really would not deal with like me. So I gotta watch out because maybe my kids might turn out
Right, they
because
may, but
yeah,
but there's I don't know, that's awesome. It's cool though that you're conscious, that you are aware, you're making those awareness choices with your family. And so how does this, like, do you ever see this like kind of bleed into your business now that you're coaching and things like that, like intentionality and having a vision? How have you noticed any of that coming out in your coaching?
well, anyone who is a true goal setter, they understand that visualization is the key to attaining any goal. And when you focus on the actual task at hand instead of the bigger picture, then you can become discouraged. You can forget why you're doing it. If you're not linked to your purpose, then you can easily feel overwhelmed. But when you visualize it done, like you visualize, okay, I'm going to have this um, amount of sales, and in order to do that, I need to do this amount of calls or these amount of of outreach or whatever, then the outreach becomes more interesting. It becomes more interesting, becomes more engaging, um, and thinking through like the reasons why you're doing things. In fact, um, running an international recruitment company for like over 10 years now, we lost our vision a lot. Like we lost our vision more than we had the vision, to be honest. Um, and when we got reviews from the candidates that we sent abroad, those were so eye-opening because we realized, wow, holy crap, we are literally changing people's lives. Like they are just giving us glowing reviews of stories of things that how they've changed, how they've gained confidence, how they're basically world travelers now, and those moments would be like, oh yeah, wow, we really do something good, don't we? Instead of staring at a computer screen all the time. And also, when I went on the courses as well, when I was on like on an island, because we in Thailand, we train our candidates. We train around about 21 to 24-year-olds, and there's about 24 of them for 3 weeks on a paradise island in Thailand. That's where they get trained how to teach English. And so when they're around us, and when I'm on the island together with them and with my family, it's just great. It's just a great atmosphere. Everybody's sort of new to it. They all have a shared goal, a shared vision of becoming this teacher, and they're all new, and they're all like being introduced to this culture together. And so friendships are fast tracked, and they're so close after those 3 weeks. It's like being on a camp, like, but for an elongated time, and you're not a kid, you're a proper adult, and you're all interested in the same things, and you're all trying to get to the same thing. So you're trying to support each other. Like, the environment is crazy, and it's really, really, like, most of the time a loving environment, a supporting environment. Or you do get some crazy sometimes, though, that kind of break off from the group. But most of the time, it's that kind of environment. And yeah,
That's cool.
visualization is all, like, we train them. We're like, you're going to be a teacher. You need to visualize this. Like, this is what you're
Yeah.
going to be doing. And yeah, but I would say, like, just to be completely honest, and sometimes when you're doing business and you're doing something like outreach, it's hard to visualize it because you're not really connecting with people. It's when you connect with your vision is when you can really visualize what's going on. That's a massive long answer. Hopefully
No,
that was
that's, well, it's so interesting when you're talking how you say, oh, with my team we do, it helped us to unite, it helped us to go in a common direction, and I'm like, yes, this is exactly family culture too. That's so, that the way that our we run businesses, we can use those skills and translate that into our families in order to, create a vision for your family of the things that you want to create together to in the future, if, and it could be something like a goal that you want your child to have as an adult, to say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what do you want to accomplish, and then come together to support that child to achieve that goal, to keep that vision in their mind, and help them recognize, okay, is this decision going to help you with that vision that we talked about, or we're trying to keep, maintaining and reinforcing that, like your problem, or this tech addiction, right? You just come to them and say, listen, how is using technology serving you to reach your goal and reach your vision? Is it? And then they come to their own realization, oh, maybe it's not. And so they start to recognize and realize, well, maybe dad's right. Maybe, being addicted to technology or spending all my time consuming on social media isn't serving me and my future, the goals that I have. But it allows you to kind of coach them in that, like, okay, you told me that your goal is blank, and right now, is what you're doing helping to serve you to attain that goal? And then they come to their own realization, having their own epiphany, like, oh, okay, maybe I could make a better choice. And then you kind of trust them up to it too, because like you said, you don't want to be the bad guy. And sometimes coming down on them makes you feel like oh, you're so angry, you're so mean to me, right? Like, but when they come to their own epiphany and you leave it to them, like, okay, I know you understand this principle. I'll leave it up to you to make that decision, if they're old enough, right? If they're to make those decisions, then they can recognize, okay, if maybe this is in alignment with my goals and who I want to be, even if it's not something that they want to, because sometimes having like, oh, I want to become a certain occupation, right? That changes. But if you want them to come back to who they want to be when they grow up, what kind of a person, does that serve them, and help them to remind them, like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who's always on their device, or do you want to accomplish other stuff with your life?
Yeah, it's a dangerous profession, being a parent, because sometimes you can completely destroy their confidence as well. Like, if you're too negative, and I'm feeling that from my daughter at some points, because she's like, she's just getting brought down because I'm like, you're on it again, what are you doing? And what you're saying is good, because really, if she comes to the realization, well, she already knows it, she's already realized that, but she needs something to replace it. Like, that's where the difference comes in. And we need to explore different experiences that she can have, and maybe have some goals that she can set, and maybe have some rewards for those goals, but also to give confidence that she can achieve them.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's something that I'm definitely working on. Having a 12-year-old is very, very different than having an 11-year-old. Like 11-year-olds are easy.
I'm not there yet. Don't tell me.
Everything.
Just kidding. No, I haven't. My daughter's 11 now, my oldest. So yeah, it's something
Big
that
change.
we're getting ready for. Yeah, that's
Big
awesome.
change from 11 to, I would say, like from 11 to, well, from 12 to 13, the year of 12, such big changes, like personality changes, everything. And my son's 11 right now, so I'm like, oh no, he's going to go through the same thing. But I'm a bit more prepared because I had a guinea pig.
Nice.
I've already went through some of the stuff.
Awesome.
But I guess it's just going to get worse. But I shouldn't really look at it that way. I should
Yeah,
like, I guess,
it's about
get
having
worse.
that plan and having the vision and establishing your family culture. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Awesome. Michael, thank you so much for coming on my show and having this awesome conversation. And tell us a little bit more about your business. You said you're the CEO of Spectre Mastermind Entrepreneurs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that your business? What's that about?
So basically, it's a coaching program where I coach service-based entrepreneurs to get more sales. It's marketing and sales coaching, basically. So help them to define their offer, share their story that's shared with impact, and help them to drive sales in a manner that basically gets them
Awesome.
a full-time income. So
yeah. And where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? It's a good place.
So you can just search Michael Ross Maitland on Facebook right now, and you can find lots of information there. There's going to be a lot more information coming out soon as well. So
cool. Awesome. That's exciting. So awesome. Thank you. And I really appreciate this conversation, being able to talk about, your family and I love hearing your story, your family, when you met your wife and and going through that experience. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jody. Cheers.
Again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Family Culture Movement. Help more people find the show. Download this episode, subscribe to the show, rate it, and leave a review. For more tools for shaping your intentional family culture, be sure to sign up for your free membership of the Family Success Toolbox at homeandfamilyculture.com. Until next time, remember to set your intentions for your family culture and lead your family toward your vision of success.